Now, one of the things to keep in mind when you are developing these mobile applications is that you want to be very well aware of something called an Application Programming Interface, or an API. Now, what exactly is an API? It's a very rough term that can encompass many different things, but for the purposes of this discussion, we are going to talk about your application, your service, interacting with services provided by other organizations. So for an API, what we are talking about is an interface where applications can interact with other applications or other services through an established interface. A good example of this would be if you are making a purchase from a company online, how do they know if your credit card is valid or not? They don't have a copy of the databases from Visa and MasterCard. To give that to them would be irresponsible and a magnificent security breach. However, they still need to be able to verify that your credit card payment information is good. So what they actually do is they access something called a payment gateway, where they send the data you provided to the credit card holder, and they then send back a response. Is the credit card good? Is it not? Has the payment been made? Has it not? What to do from there is up to you. All you know is you received some information and you sent it off to someone else and they gave a response. The interface for that interaction with a third party, that is an application programming interface. So if we look at the service enhancements that can exist for your mobile services, there are a few that exist that are transactional services or integrated services. Now, what exactly do these mean? Well, let's take a look. This first service enhancement is a transaction service, which is very much like what I just described. Your service is provided to a user. That user sends you some information. You then take that information and you give it to a third party in order to get a response from them. That response is going to contain some kind of data, some kind of value to you that will help you improve the service you deliver to your user. That is a transactional service. You engaging with a third party for the benefit of your user. When it comes to another service enhancement, an integrated service, it's a little different. Much like the example that was just given, we're actually going to swap roles. You are going to be a government entity that will open yourself to allow other entities to connect to you, to send you data, for you to then provide a response to them that will help them provide better service to their users. A very good example of this would be the Emirates ID Authority. Now, they are not going to give a copy of the Emirates ID database to every government organization. Just as with Visa or MasterCard giving a copy of their database to everyone who owns a business, it would be highly irresponsible to do that. But they still need to allow other entities to connect with them to find out if any Emirates ID information that they have been provided is valid or not. So Emirates ID would establish what would be an integrated service. They would create and provide an application programming interface, an API, that other entities can connect into, that they will then process the received data and send a response back to them so that that entity will have an improved service for their user. In fact, once we are providing services at this level, we're no longer really a mobile application. We're more like a mobile platform. We provide a service that others can use to build upon to enhance their own services. Now, with regard to APIs, we need to be aware of the data and how it is passed back and forth. So we need to understand the different data formats that you're most commonly going to find when engaging with any kind of API. And these are going to be XML and JSON. XML is the extensible markup language. And as you can see in this sample here, within these tags are the different values that the tags define. So you would have a tag that says name, and then the name of someone inside of it, with another tag at the end that closes the name variable with the value being the data in between the two. XML is great for the structure and exchange of data. Unfortunately, as you can see, there's also a lot to it. So just as we discussed with JavaScript and jQuery, maybe there's another way to exchange the information that doesn't require so much overhead. That's where JSON comes in. JavaScript Object Notation. You can see that this is considerably smaller. There is much less code to actually be sent than the XML example. Now, why would we do this? Well, mobile bandwidth is not nearly as fast as connected bandwidth. So if we have an actual cable connecting devices, something like XML, sure, it works great. You could even use JSON over that. You can still use XML over wireless, but because you're going to be sending more data means more network use, which is likely to mean more network congestion and a slower service experience. So even though you are not required to, it's recommended that in any kind of API-related communications that are going to go over wireless connections, JSON is probably going to be your best option.